Our today's topic is very interesting: self-development and the program of the soul. Every child who comes to this earth starts his way with the exploration of himself and his environment. Such exploration continues for the whole life. Where does this aspiration for self-development come from? Is there some kind of a special program that has been placed into each of us? It is only fair to say that not all the people are eager to get knowledge. Not all the people mature and learn. Most of the people just have to respond to the environment they are living in. This is an indirect teaching. Not all the people have their hearts set on the light in the way you understand it. So today, there are very few people who are following a spiritual practice deeply and earnestly. Although there appeared a tendency towards awakening, it is connected with the general rhythms of the universe. In my lectures, I said that all vibrations of the earth are changing now because we have come out of the dark channel where we were closed, and the central spiritual sun has come nearer to us. So it's natural that people's understanding is growing. But in general, any soul, evolving gradually, will finally come to a level where it will want to develop oneself. The fact is that any soul is very material at the beginning of the path, because lots of material factors influence it greatly. As I said in one of my lectures, there are 4 levels of consciousness. The first level is the consciousness of people who are climbing to power and those in power. This type of consciousness is very low because the principle to me and mine dominates. These so-called people who seek to enslave others, they are focused on enslaving and holding the power. Why? To highlight their own distinction. This motive is very egoistic. Then, during numerous incarnations, in the process of recurrent births and deaths, they start realizing that the world changes constantly. In the big scheme of things, it's impossible to hold power. Finally, their attitude to life changes. Still, the tendency to hold power retains because ego dominates. Staying on this level, they turn to sorcerers and magicians for help. It is evident that nowadays a lot of people use such a help. They obviously get negative experience because karmic laws are unmerciful to those who use the lowest egoistic vibrations. Such people will come into the world and die many times in suffering. Then finally, they'll rise to the level of religion. This is a very important point to understand, as the tendency you are talking about was developed exactly this way. We came to this earth and left it many times. A point which is really important for us to understand now is that in ordinary consciousness there is a huge gap between the ego and the soul. We should realize this gap and think what we can do to reduce the distance between the ego and the soul. So being on the 3rd level of consciousness, people rise to the level of religion. They come to this level when they had enough suffering to understand that it's no good holding sway over other people. On the religious level, there is a relative equality. I mean a true, pure religion, but not all the things with religion that are taking place nowadays. People remain on the 3rd level of consciousness for a certain period of time. Being in this state, they call to the Supreme to get benefits for themselves and for others. But sooner or later, they start realizing that there is a distance between a clergyman and the Supreme. They see that their task is to reduce this distance. Then, after a number of reincarnations, a person reaches a higher level, where he understands that the most important way to develop oneself is the 4th one. By the way, G. Gurdjieff and a lot of the masters told us about that way. It is the path sadhana which helps to reduce this distance between a person and his higher self in the usual sense. Yoga of the high path is the force which unifies all the four levels of consciousness and makes a person understand that he can reduce all the distances by only one action. Even if one is on the first level, he can develop oneself very quickly by performing special sacral techniques and using this knowledge in his life. I always talk about that. So it is not necessary for people to reincarnate many times to evolve. To achieve the highest level, it is not necessary to evolve step by step, going by bendy paths. The general tendency nowadays is that all people are rising one level higher than their current level. If people want to develop more quickly and to rise higher, they should reduce the distance between themselves and the Supreme with the help of the sacred science. I call it Yoga of the High Path, the sacred science, because it gives a chance to transform both your own consciousness and the consciousness of at least 10 people around you. I don't mean the exact number. This is a figural expression. But the more developed you are, the more the environment around you will change. No doubt the external influence should not be underestimated. Nowadays, there is a lot of negative vibrations in the world. A sort of a struggle is taking place, but in fact, this struggle is delusive. Why is that so? Because everything depends on the inner attitude of mind. People are afraid of external conditions. They are frightened of negative influence, of bounds and prohibitions. However, whether they want it or not, they will eventually have to come to the inner feeling. So right now, it's better to base yourself on the inner perception of divinity within yourself. Babaji Kriya is based on this truth. Lahiri Mahasaya and other self-realized masters talked about the same thing. When a person realizes this truth, he will understand that everything around him develops as a result of his inner being. Still, there is karma, karma of mankind, karma of the earth. There is also karma of the country and of the city. Besides, everyone has his or her individual karma. We are influenced by all of these factors. So a person who practices sadhana regularly and one who practices prana-karma, special sadhana performed on the high stages of Kriya Yoga, will quickly destroy all the aspects of karma. Thus, he will get beyond control of karma. He will get beyond control of the regime which is imposed on people from outside. It's an extremely important point to understand. One can create alternative reality for oneself, and this reality will be transmitted outside. Today, people often say unite, solidarize, cooperate, but any external unity is formal and useless. In contrast, internal unity is very important. In other words, we should unite with our own high aspect, with prana, life force which penetrates all the space and creates everything you know. Today you have a chance to understand that whatsoever you are is God, the Creator Himself. This particular distance between ourselves and the Supreme, the distance which exists in people's consciousness, has to be reduced. This is the main purpose of human life. Your question was, where does this aspiration for self-development come from? The point is that the Supreme is always vibrating in us. The desire of the Supreme is to manifest itself. It doesn't want to transform people severely and work with their choices. Ultimately, people have no choice within the given reality. People think they have a choice, but in fact, they don't. Because all people long for the same thing, absolute happiness. They have one and the same aim, to be happy, independent, realized, and ever living. What choice is meant then? By all means, there can be different ways that lead to the highest state of consciousness. These ways change. The forms of practicing faith can differ. Someone goes through Islam, others through Buddhism or Christianity, if they were lucky to get true knowledge. And there are people who go through yoga, which unites all the true religions. Actually, yoga is cosmic knowledge, which was the source of all religions. The fourth way for today is the way of the true yoga. Now people tend to awaken and understand that it's necessary to do something. It is a voice of the soul. A soul wants to reach the state of eternal bliss in spirit. It wants to be one with the spirit. This is a religious idea. From the social perspective, everyone wants a few main things in his life. To be conscious of himself, I am, to enjoy life, to create, and to be immortal. Step by step, one's life goes in this direction. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to be swallowed by the devil of death. People are familiar with this devil, talk about him, and are scared of him. They are afraid of uncertainty and of the lack of knowledge. Actually, there is no death. There is a transition, a change of dimension. Death is a change of dimension. It sometimes happens that one renounces his current mental state and changes his attitude to life. To some extent, he experiences death. A lot of our cells die and then revive. It repeats again and again. It is death too. Each breath, inhale and exhale, draw us nearer to death. Death is a change of state, change of dimension. It happens all the time. Vibrations have their own rhythm. The change of rhythm is like a small death. But we continue to exist, so the soul seeks to reach high awareness. As soon as you've got such awareness, you are free in this life. Then it doesn't matter whether you have a body or not. This is everyone's life purpose. There are people who are very interested in their own significance and importance, and in the retention of their power. Why do they need it? They want to get pleasure, to enjoy. But these people don't know about the highest pleasure. That's why raw and primitive pleasure seems very important to them. Sometime later, after they pass through lots of suffering, they will rise to a higher level. Their own sufferings and the new level of consciousness will allow them to understand that all people are the same. All of them want to live, to enjoy, and to love. So one who comes to this level of consciousness faster contaminates, in a good sense, all the others. Over many years, I've been asking myself, why children who are being brought up in one family and have the same parents when growing up turn into completely different people, having different values, intentions, personal programs, and programs of the soul. It would be boring if all the people were alike. When you are looking into the kaleidoscope of life, you don't see any similar things. There aren't any two identical leaves in the forest we are living in. There is always a little difference. Your family is vibrating divinity, which attracted your souls and united them together, so that all of you could work out certain programs. It's only good that these programs are different. For example, your spouse differs from you greatly and doesn't support you in your interests and aspirations. Strange to say, but such situation gives more opportunities for self-realization. What's interesting to both of you, such situation doesn't mean that you should resist it. It's necessary to find a way to unite these two energies. Shakti, the energy which manifests the female principle, Shiva, the energy which manifests the male principle, yin and yang. These two energies should be integrated. There's a lot of examples of such integration. Shakti is very active and unstoppable. If a man really understands that he has a great instrument in his hands, if he uses this instrument properly, he will be able to reach a very high level. Your development will speed up. Lahiri Mahasaya, the master who gave us Kriya Yoga, told that one who had got married would be able to come to self-realization much quicker. He didn't support monasticism as a form of escapism. Lahiri Mahasaya himself was a householder. I'm a householder too. This is a very high level of understanding. These people are able to keep a family, to take care of their family members, and at the same time to practice yoga, when they seemingly don't have any time for it. Virtually, I didn't have any time to practice yoga, but I did it at night when all my close ones were sleeping. I say this because I'm imparting my personal experience. I can't refer to other people except for masters whom I know, understand, and work with. So people in your family are different, but they are just the people who are able to give you what you need. Your soul needs to get some specific experience, to understand this experience and to go upwards. Therefore, any obstacles that appear in your life are your opportunities. If your mind sees them as obstacles, it is the problem of your own consciousness. But if you understand that these obstacles are the challenges the Creator poses for you so that you could develop, then you'll be able to evolve very quickly.